Hey everybody, thanks for joining us on another episode of the Roaming Startup Show. On this week's show, we get a chance to talk to the creator of the onE that is currently funding on Kickstarter. So stay tuned.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Roaming Startup, and welcome live audience. As always, if you have any questions or comments on Twitter or Google+, you can use @RoamingStartup or #RoamingStartup to ask any questions for our guest today, which is Tom Joseph. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, Zach.
Thank you, and as always, I've got Robert here. Robert, how's it going?
Zach, it's going great. Really looking forward to this. I'm a backer of this project, of Tom's project, and so I'm really excited to chat with him a little bit about his invention and the technology.
Absolutely. So, Tom, why don't you dive on into it and tell us a little bit about your project?
Sure. What we've come up with, it's called the Epiphany onE, and we're running this project through a new company called Epiphany Laboratories, which is a sister to our original company. Our original company is Epiphany Solar Water Systems, and through water systems, we've spent the last 4 years or so perfecting a water purification technology that is completely solar powered, and it's powered by concentrated sunlight, which essentially means that we're not generating electricity. We're using the sunlight to generate heat. It's very high intensity heat, and then we use that heat to power a distillation process. In the process of developing that, we realized that there's also a huge opportunity to use that heat to convert into electricity for the same people that need the water that we're making. And primarily the water system is made for people in third world countries or anywhere you need to do water purification off grid. So any remote locations where you have really dirty water, which just happens to be mostly third world countries where people really need water. So in doing that, we thought, well, those same people also need electricity. So we started to do the research and development on how to build an electrical generator that is heat powered, which this is a pretty well-known thing. It's not like we invented that idea. The idea of using what they call a Stirling engine to convert heat into electricity has been around, but nobody does it on a large scale, mass production type thing. So we knew that there was an opportunity. We knew that we would have to raise some money to do the research and development for that. And then we thought, how are we going to go about raising that money? So then the idea came up that what if we could build a really small version of it, just a little miniature one, that rather than making enough power for a whole village in a third world country, what if we could make just enough power for a single user for something like a cell phone? And it turns out that building a unit that can make just 5 watts for a cell phone is actually not that difficult. So that's where the onE idea came up, and we thought, well, okay, let's get one built, and then let's see how much interest there is on the market. And that's how we came up with the idea to try it out on Kickstarter, which went from 0 to 100,000 in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're doing really well on that. What made you become a green inventor?
It's kind of not the intention. We've got I and my team have a lot of interest in inventing things that help people, that help society more than anything. It just so happens that it's kind of secondary that they happen to be green things. It's not like we set out and said, let's find a way to make clean water with solar power. We said, how do we make clean water for people that need it, and how do we make power for people that need it? And it turns out that conventional technologies, conventional energy is not an option in those places. They don't have a grid to pull from. And even if they did, statistics show that if everybody on Earth got the water they needed and the power they need by about 2035, as fast as the population is growing, as fast as they're industrializing, if everybody got everything they needed, it would take something like 5 times the total amount of power that we currently generate worldwide. So it's just simply not an option to use conventional energy. Aside from the fact that that would devastate the environment, it's not economically feasible. So we did it more of a pragmatic solution, and it just so happens to be environmentally friendly too, which obviously is very important as well.
Tom, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into this kind of business?
My background is in mechanical engineering, and I'm actually from the Pittsburgh area originally, but I went to school at Florida State University. So at Florida State, they don't call it the Sunshine State for no reason. So all of our projects, everything that we did as undergrads for our engineering design projects were about solar power in various forms. And one of the things that struck me as a huge opportunity at the time was concentrated solar power, and particularly for use with Stirling engines, which is what the onE is. From there, I went on and took a job at the Fluid Mechanics Research Lab at Florida State, and they transferred me out to NASA Ames Research Center to do some research on rocket and jet engine nozzle design for supersonic engines, which, going into it, I had no idea that would ever lead to anything here. But looking backwards, the dots kind of connect on their own. And so in doing all the rocket and jet engine research, I learned way more about thermodynamics, heat transfer, fluid dynamics, all that fun stuff, way more than I ever expected to. And now, in retrospect, it turns out that those are exactly the skills and knowledge needed to do both the water thing and the Stirling engine design. You have to really understand your fluids. That's the biggest key to the whole thing. So I already had this solar background from undergrad, and then post-grad I ended up doing all this work at NASA and at the Fluid Mechanics Research Lab, and it just kind of happened to all work out that when you stack the skills together, here we are.
So it sounds like you're working with some really big companies and some organizations. How do you make that step then and start to do your own thing, become your own entrepreneur, startup kind of thing? How did that happen?
That's the hardest part. And obviously I've worked with and met quite a few really, really intelligent people along the way, the people that have worked with these various places, but very few of them are willing to take the leap, are willing to walk away from the 9-to-5 security of a good job and the paycheck that comes with it. Obviously, that's the hard part, and just go see what they can do. So I always knew that I wanted to do it, but figuring out how to take that leap is not easy. So I was fortunate because my father, fortunate or not, I guess it depends on how you look at it. My father had a candy company back home, just north of Pittsburgh, and years ago he had some health issues, and we were a little concerned that he was under too much stress. So I wasn't loving the job that I was in at the time anyway, and I decided, well, I'll go help him out, and while I'm helping him run his business, I'll have some spare time to experiment on the side instead of being under somebody else's thumb. So again, through this odd course of events, I ended up running the family candy factory for a few years. We rolled that into a new business that actually makes treats for horses, which is totally unrelated. And then while that was all happening, I ran my first laboratory experiment on this water purification with concentrated sunlight, and the very first one that we built worked. It didn't work that well, but it worked, which is, in the engineering world, if your first experiment works at all, you're onto something. So I hurried up and packed it up and put it away before anybody else could see it. And I went to some local investors and a group in the Pittsburgh area called Innovation Works they committed to invest the first $200,000 to get us off the ground. So that was obviously a huge help to get me able to make that leap. 200 grand doesn't change your world, but it definitely gets you out of that 9-to-5 and gives you the opportunity to go give it a shot. And at that point, either you get some traction or you fail and you go back to where you came from, which in my case I was fortunate because I wasn't going to lose my job since I owned it.
Very cool.
So I'm looking to charge my cell phone, and obviously the Epiphany onE does that. Tell us a little bit more about the actual product and how it works and how ultimately my cell phone gets charged.
Sure. So a Stirling engine works by using a temperature differential to expand and contract the air within the engine. So when you think of a conventional engine, an internal combustion engine, the way it works is you bring the piston down, you squeeze the air down to as small a space as possible, you inject some fuel, you ignite the fuel, and when the fuel ignites, it expands by a factor of about 10. And when that happens, it blows the piston back, and that's where you get your energy. They call it the power stroke. And then it has a flywheel, so it's to coast back around, push the old air out, suck new air in, recompress the air, and go through the cycle again. A Stirling engine goes through what would appear to be a similar cycle if you didn't know any better, except that you're not exchanging the air in and out, and there's no fuel. The heat source comes from outside. So you imagine the same cycle taking place, but no valves, no inlet and outlet of air. All you do is you bring the piston down, so you have the air in a very small space. You heat that air very rapidly, and when you do, it expands, which pushes the piston back. And then you cool the air, which draws the piston back down. Now the trick is, how do you heat and cool air that quickly? You're talking about having to do it, a couple hundred times a minute, at least. Some Stirling engines run the thousands of RPMs. So just for reference, ours runs at somewhere in the 600 RPM kind of range. So 10 times a second, it's still very rapid to heat and cool air. So Robert Stirling, who the engine is named after and who got the first patent on it, he figured out that the easiest way to heat and cool air that quickly is to not heat and cool it that quickly. Instead, he fakes it. He has a thing called a regenerator, which is kind of a dead space where you take some of that air, some of the energy that's in that air, and you capture it in the regenerator. So you don't have to heat and cool the entire mass of air. You can push the medium temperature air to the cold side and cool it, and then you can push some of that back to the middle, and the stuff that was in the middle that is medium goes to the hot side, and you can heat that. So you're only heating and cooling, somewhere around half of the thermal difference. And so it's a pretty ingenious thing, and the regenerator was really the magic that made the heat engine become the Stirling engine, which became all of a sudden viable back in the day. So we're doing we're doing that exactly, but we're doing it on a much smaller scale, and we've figured out an innovative way to couple the two. So rather than having a flywheel to bring the thing around, we can do it in a very innovative way, which unfortunately I can't go into the details yet because we haven't filed all the patents, but that's the difference, and that's what makes this thing, you can't violate the rules. You can't get more efficient than what the thermodynamics say you can get, which is about 20% efficiency, a little tiny bit less actually. But what you can do is you can remove some of the inefficiencies, things like the friction caused by the bearings of the flywheel, and some of the other losses that you normally get, and you can also optimize the movement of these things by taking active control over the movement of the piston. So that's what we've figured out how to do. It also allows us to put it in a much more compact form factor, and so that's the trick. There's no magic there. It's just kind of a merging of this old technology, which was invented in 1816, the Stirling engine, and some newer technologies.
We'll give him a second to try to join back on here. To dumb it down for the rest of us, you get this Epoch, and it looks like any sort of hot beverage. It generates enough energy to charge your cell phone.
Well, you're absolutely right, but there's one addition to that, Zach. Any cold beverage you put on it does the exact same thing. If you have, a Diet Coke in the afternoon and with ice on this thing, it also charges your cell phone.
Right, and
so any potential difference, it ends up working with.
Yeah, basically, as long as you don't have a lukewarm or room temperature drink, you'll be fine.
Right. Room temperature is the only thing that would end up stopping this from working for you.
Cool. I lost all connectivity. I'm not sure what happened there. I even had a backup iPad just in case, and it lost all connection too.
Well, welcome back. We got a couple more questions to ask you about.
Okay.
One is, tell us a little bit about, obviously, from an engineering point of view, you have this stuff down cold. This is your niche from an engineering point of view.
Right.
How did you become so successful in marketing it, though, to have such a successful campaign at Kickstarter?
I can't take too much credit for it. Let's just say, luck had a lot to do with it. Fortunately, because of the water thing and because of the, it kind of pulls at the heartstrings in a lot of ways. We've had a lot of followers, a lot of faithful followers, as we've been developing the water projects, the water systems over the last 4 years. And we've won a few awards locally. We were in Pittsburgh. We won Innovator of the Year through the Pittsburgh Technology Council. We won the Environmental prize from the Carnegie Science Museum last year, and then this past fall we were finalists in the Platts Global Energy Award in Manhattan. And all of those recognitions obviously give us a lot of credibility. We also made a deal with Consol Energy, which is a pretty big gas and coal company in the Pittsburgh area. So we've gained a lot of credibility and a lot of followers on social media over the last few years. And so when we launched this new campaign, we had no idea what we were doing. We've never done a Kickstarter campaign before. We did a lot of research on other successful campaigns out there, and we tried to model as much as we could after them. But a lot of it was just good fortune. We put it out there. We pushed it out on all our social media feeds. We got some early momentum. Apparently, that momentum got the attention of the right people. Places like Engadget, CNET, some of the other big online bloggers did some stories on us on the second and third day of the campaign, and that led to a tremendous amount of, it gives you a huge boost. You get a lot of traffic. We went from something like 700 hits on our video to 30,000 hits on our video in about 3 days, and that makes all the difference. And I don't know where it's at now, but it's last time I looked, it was approaching 100,000 hits, and this is the video, so full views of the video were like 100,000 in like about 2 weeks.
So, did you reach out to to Engadget or these other companies, or was it just something where you got a little bit of traction and they caught on pretty quickly?
Yeah, at first they came on their own, which we were surprised. We didn't even know that Engadget was writing a story about us until after it came out. We set up Google alerts for anything that mentioned us, and we got these Google alerts saying, "Hey, Engadget just published a story about you," and we were like, "Holy crap! We hope it's good," And it was, obviously, because you never know. I mean, sometimes journalists see things, and they, in fact, there have been a couple, obviously, naysayers who are going to tell you it's impossible, which we just shrug it off. You've got to expect that. But all of the really credible ones have done their research. They've contacted their friends, and in fact, after they've published the stories, then I send them a thank you. And a lot of times they'll email me back and say, "Yeah, we talked to our engineering experts, and they're looking at the math on this, and they think you guys are legit." I mean, obviously, we are. But then you've got a few out there who say, "Well, this isn't, these guys are crazy. It's not possible. Blah blah blah," and that's going to happen. The same thing happened with the water systems, by the way. Early on we talked to some investors, and they brought in their technical, so-called experts, and they said, "Oh, there's no way you could make that amount of water with that amount of heat." And we said, "Well, I mean, we could show you the math, but you're looking at it. It's doing it. How can you tell me it's not working if you're looking right at it?" We were just very fortunate to get the right kind of stories from the right kind of outlets early on. Once we got the first few out there, then it was very easy for us to approach others, because they see some credible sources writing about you, then the rest of them want to jump on board. And we're not done yet. We've taken about a 1 week break from the media push, only because we've been really busy with some other projects. But now we're going to go back and we're going to do some fun stuff. We've still got a little over a month remaining, and we're going to have some fun now. We're going to do some crazy videos that hopefully some of them will go viral, or at least within our community go viral. And we'll do just things to spread the word some more. And it's all going to be leading toward our larger vision, our larger message, which is we, Epiphany, are here to make the world a better place. We really do believe that we can use existing technologies and some cutting-edge technologies to drastically improve the lot of many people's lives around the world. But also for our followers and our backers and supporters all over the world, we need them all to know that they're a part of this. That they're a crucial part of this, not just by supporting us financially. That's important, but the truth is that's a small part of it. We need their support. We need them to believe in us. We need them to spread the word, to tell their friends, to get the right people looking at what we're doing, because, as always, it's more who you know than what you know.
Tom, let me ask you, obviously you made your goal. You have over 30 days left now. Can you talk a little bit about what you're planning on for stretch goals here to keep the momentum going?
Yeah, we published stretch goals about a week ago, and they're neat little upgrades, things that people had asked for anyway. And to tell you the truth, I don't remember them in order off the top of my head, but they're things like the puck already contains a very small battery pack because it has to function. Obviously, it's going to make more power whenever you have a really fresh hot drink or a really fresh cold drink on it, and that's going to deplete over time as the drink comes closer to room temperature. So what we did is we included a battery pack in there so that whenever you're not under optimal conditions, you're not able to produce the full 5 watts, which is frankly going to be most of the time. The puck is able to store what it can produce, and then it can dump that power down to the phone in batches. So we've got a lot of requests from people that said, well, why don't you just make the battery pack a little bigger, and we can also use this as an external battery. So it's an all-in-one. We can charge it off the wall overnight if we want, and then we have that, and then we can always keep it topped off by using our hot or cold drink. But it's an external battery pack, and it's a cool little charger. One of the neater stretch goals that a lot of people requested is to include transparent sides on it, so that you can see inside and watch what it's doing. Sort of like the really cool watches that have the clear backs on them. So we're going to attempt it. That's the one that we told them we pretty much can't promise because there's a lot of insulation and moving parts inside there, and so for us to make it all visible might not be easy. We're not sure yet.
So what would be the easiest way for our viewers to check out all the projects, check out your company, and check out the Kickstarter?
Obviously, the Kickstarter thing is very simple. You can either go directly to Kickstarter and search for us. It's called Epiphany One Puck, or you can go to our website, which is Epiphany Labs. The other web page is Epiphany Solar Water Systems, which is Epiphany SWS, and that'll tell you all about our water units. 3 weeks ago, we had no idea whether this Kickstarter thing was going to be a flop. We thought, what the hell, we'll throw it out there. If it goes well, terrific, and if it doesn't, then we'll just shut it down and go somewhere else to find a way to launch this. We had no clue that it was going to. We set the goal at 60 days, thinking we're going to need every bit of 60 days to hit this goal. So when it hit in 2 weeks, we were thrilled.
Very great work, Tom. A real pleasure speaking with you. Real quick, is there a Twitter address or anything you want our viewers to know about that they can communicate with you, or Facebook, anything you want out there for them?
Absolutely. We, in fact, we combined everything into one Twitter, so there's not a separate one for water systems and labs anymore. They're all one, and same thing on Facebook. So if you go to either one, it's Facebook or Twitter. If you do a search for Epiphany Labs. Our long-term goal here, and the reason why it's really important to us that we get people to follow us and really buy in and believe in what we're doing, is that we want, this isn't the end of it. The water systems was a stepping stone to the next thing. One Puck is also a stepping stone. Our goal is to build Epiphany Labs up to become sort of like what Edison Laboratories was 100 years ago, or what Bell Laboratories was 50 years ago. We want to take cutting-edge, neat things that that maybe were designed for other industries, and find ways to apply those to solve real-world problems. As we get bigger and bigger, and we have more success stories, we want to just keep rolling that into the next project, and just look around us every day and say, what do we see in this world that could be better? An optimist looks at the world and says everything's as good as it can be, and a pessimist looks at the world and hopes to God the optimist is wrong.
And you're the pessimist.
That's right. I'm looking at the world thinking, man, the glass isn't. I don't say it's half empty or half full. I say, how come it's only half full?
Right. It's got more room for water.
We got all this room. What are we waiting on? So I think we've got a lot more potential.
Tom, it's been a real pleasure visiting with you this evening. Thanks for spending some time with us.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for the support.
Sounds great. Zach, take care.
Have a good one.
Thank you for joining us, boys and girls. If you want to help the fellas with their show, please sign up for their VIP list. That way, they can send you their free guide on how to crowdfund your project. Tune in next week as we learn more about how to reach your dreams with crowdfunding. Till then, remember, keep dreaming and don't get tied down with any strings.